Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
This is insanity. I don't. But let me ask you. I'm gonna switch it up to the some couple of cases closer to home. I want to get your take. Billy Ray Turner was sentenced to life for helping to kill Lorenzen Wright, the basketball star. So I know. What's your take on that whole thing? Was it the right call for him to be sentenced? Did you agree with Jimmy Martin?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. The jury sentenced him.
Mm-hmm.
See, in Tennessee, when you have a first-degree murder case, the state can announce we're seeking the death penalty or life without possibility of parole or automatic penalty if you're convicted of first-degree murder is life with the possibility of parole. If they demand life without possibility of parole is part of their sentencing phase, the jury, after convicting the defendant of first-degree murder, proceeds to determine whether it should be life without parole or just life. So a jury sets that sentence, not the judge. Now, if he's convicted of first-degree murder, then the Supreme Court of the state is going to assess what the sentence was. So it's not a matter of what do I think, it's what's going on in terms of the jury. Was the jury acting fairly?
I know,
And by the way, the judges have a cheat sheet that they fill out. They send up to the Supreme Court basically in 20-some pages, a questionnaire that just match the standards. Did the lawyers match the defense standards in your area? Does this sentence seem excessive in light of your experience with other cases in the area? And see, the judge can't answer that if he has no experience. And we have judges that preside over cases that they've never tried as lawyers. We had a DA, Amy Werewich, that I think is a crook. She tried to pull off a deal fix in my courtroom. She was in front of Joe Daley, who was one of the worst racist judges we ever had on the bench, and he was the youngest. And she claimed that he was in trial, and she came over to my courtroom and wanted me to take a quick guilty plea on what she described as a minor drug case. What she announced was the woman was going to have the charges dropped against her, and the guy was going to plead out to 1 year upfront probation for 1 year, unsupervised for 1 year, and a small fine. And the man's charges, the young man's charges, were supposed to be dismissed against him at the end of the year and his record expunged. I was looking at this like, well, aren't you going to tell the court? I didn't say anything on purpose, what the drugs were and how many. Well, just a minor drug case, Your Honor, very small quantity of drugs. Okay. Well, I'm sorry, General, but this court always has a hearing. So set this for hearing. So she wanted a date. And I said, no, that's outside of the 30-day limit. And if we have it outside of that, the court will lose jurisdiction. So we'll set it 26 days hence. Madam Clerk, please give everyone a date. We got the date. Okay, I'm noticing one thing that's peculiar. There's no defense lawyer on this case. We have the hearing, and I still don't see anything about the drug quantities or what the drugs were. I get to this part. Young man, the court is curious. You have no employment history. How do you manage to get the credit to purchase a brand new twin turbo Porsche 911 sports car? Well, Your Honor, I didn't need credit. I bought it cash. Well, I'll tell you what. Officer Duckett, would you please convey the court's compliments to Captain so-and-so over Metro Narco? And would you inquire as to whether it would be convenient for him to be in court day after tomorrow at, let's say, 10:30? Sure, Your Honor. So I bring him in and I said, Captain, are you familiar with the matters? Oh, yes, Your Honor. Would you tell the court something about this case? Well, we've been working on it, intensive investigation for 3.5 years. We seized $800-some thousand in cash from the defendant. We got a pretty good bust. We're waiting for this matter to be indicted. Would it be of interest to you to know that the matter has been indicted? Well, we haven't heard anything about that, Your Honor. Well, would you wind up, please tell the court what was seized? 4 kilos of basically pure cocaine, about 4 kilos of pure heroin, 3,000 some hits of crystal meth, about close to 2,000 hits of Quaaludes, even 1,500 hits of LSD and some other Schedule II and Schedule I drugs, 800 some thousand in cash seized. They got a absolute airtight bust, recorded it on somebody who was wired. They videotaped the damn thing, and you give out an offer of 1 year suspended upfront unsupervised probation and expunged record, when that would be life in the penitentiary in the federal system, when that would be a minimum of 45 years in the state prison system? Oh, hell no. And she wanted to transfer it back to Joe Daly. I wouldn't allow it to happen. I wound up after I said it for trial and set this null process aside on this woman, because the captain is telling me she's part of it. So I set it for trial. They wound up pleading out to 10 years as range 2 offenders going to the Department of Corrections, so their sentences couldn't be suspended by a judge.
Wow.
Now, see, that's the kind of crooked stuff we have here in Shelby County. That is the real crime. When our district attorney here, Amy Wright, has been found by the Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and Stanford law reviews to be the most crooked prosecutor in the United States. She's had personally more findings of prosecutorial misconduct against her than any other DA's office in America has collectively. That includes Los Angeles, which is #1 in criminal prosecutions, New York, which is #2, Chicago, which is #3, Dallas, which is #4, Memphis, which is #5 in absolute numbers of criminal prosecutions, Houston, which is #6, Miami, which is #7, and Detroit, which is and collectively, the district attorney's offices for all of these places don't have as many findings for any one office as Amy Wright has personally of prosecutorial misconduct by name, where the state Supreme Court or the Court of Criminal Appeals finds that she engaged in criminal prosecutorial misconduct, perjuring herself to a court that asked her some specific questions that the Supreme Court noted specifically involving some properties that Danny Owens owned down here on Airways in Winchester that she and her husband were trying to buy. This thing with the most recent murder, I forget the young lady's name, where she was convicted supposedly a mother, and some black female criminal investigators that had filed an EEO complaint were told they got one of 28,000 untested rape kits tested, and they found DNA from a known person who was a white United Methodist preacher up in Jackson, Tennessee, and his DNA was all over the house, and he had had sex with Nora Jackson's mother just a couple of hours before she was slain, and Wyrick's office framed Nora Jackson. See, this is the kind of crap going on where there is that thing with a prosecutor that had been assigned to my courtroom for 3 years, wherein he concealed evidence that would have exonerated somebody charged with murder. And there are 14 homicide cases, murders, that were set aside by the state Supreme Court because of prosecutorial misconduct. But guess what?
What?
Every one of the 14 involved a white defendant. Think about all of the black ones where this didn't happen, because there is racism in the court system. Think about this. The Justice Department found that here in Shelby County, Tennessee, sentences for simple possession of marijuana. This equal numbers of white and black youthful defendants get arrested for simple possession of marijuana, but 95% of those who are prosecuted are black, where there is absolutely no control over what happens at juvenile court, although she's supposed to be in charge of this, wherein juvenile court has subsumed the operations of the Attorney General's office in juvenile court and does this under contract, which is unlawful because no judicial officer, judge down at juvenile court, is supposed to have that kind of authority. And in 1986, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals for the United States, in a case called Severe versus Turner, said no judge in America can exercise this authority. Well, they still do, and that is 36 years later. They're still doing what has been declared illegal. And down here, 54% of the juveniles confined as adults in the state of Tennessee come from Shelby County, and 95% of them are black.
Okay, well, we gluttons for punishment down here for some reason, but
Let me ask you this about, speaking of crimes and murder. What is your take on this Lorenzen Wright thing? Well, about all this, his wife got arrested out in Cali, and guy Billy Ray Turner was arrested a week or so ago. What are your thoughts about this case?
I don't know anything personally about the facts of the case. I have not personally interviewed any witnesses. I have not reviewed any statements. I know even if I had, I have adopted as a working principle in my life, an individual is innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. And there has been no such proceeding to give this man, who is the suspect, his due process. So as a former criminal court judge, former defense counsel, former chief public defender for the city of Memphis, and the first black prosecutor for the city of Memphis, I know better. So
the same goes for his wife, Lorenzen Wright.
I have no idea. And put that in the context of the news media will falsify, exaggerate, withhold, so they can generate ratings. You cannot rely on what you hear in the media to set up an accurate picture of what went on, especially now. They've always been bad, but they are particularly bad now.
Yes, sir. I heard that's wisdom.
That was like that, what's her name?
Which one? It's on behalf.
accused of killing her daughter.
I know you're talking about Casey Anthony. Yeah.
And Nancy Grace was standing on the woman's sidewalk, the family sidewalk, for several years with a loud hailer saying, "We have a right to know. She should tell us what happened." And all of these people were pontificating about how she was going to be convicted. And the jury, when they got the case, said they never showed where this kid got killed, how this kid got killed. Even if the kid did it, they didn't show how she did it, when she did it, where she did it, why she did it, or if she did it. So we had to acquit her. We followed the law. We had a reasonable doubt. And everybody, for 5 years that this case was pending, was hollering about she's guilty. She needs to be up under a penitentiary.
Mm.
They talked about O.J.
Mm-hmm.
They still do. But that was Nancy Grace again, who was the reporter, scoundrel that made America think O.J. was guilty.
Mm-hmm.
See, I got a chance to see all of the evidence. Somebody I recruited to law school just happened to be chief administrative judge for L.A. Superior Courts. So she let me see the evidence. First off, the photos they had showed that Goldman and O.J.'s wife had their throats slit from ear to ear, and somebody had pulled their tongues out of the slit throats. Otherwise, they each had one knife wound going into the right upper chest that ripped up the aorta and the top two chambers of the knife. It was a pro that did it. I have a friend who was called by the state as an expert in knife killing. He looked at it and said it had to be two people. One man couldn't do it. And by the way, at the scene, in the blood, you've got footprints from somebody that had a size 9 shoe, and somebody else had a size 10.5, and O.J. wears a 12.
Mm-hmm.
If it does not fit, you must acquit. I know the guy that made the gloves. His name is Richard Zuckerwar. Everybody gave a hand tracing. O.J. took a size 2XL in that glove. It was a size large, not extra large, not 2XL. Furman wore a size large. O.J.'s hand was too big.
Mm.
Bottom line is bloody socks at the foot of the bed. That's one of the things that killed the case. What the jury saw and what Nancy Grace and none of the news media reported on, though it was in the stuff that I recorded from the live broadcast of the trial, was this. At about 1:14, the security squad goes in to video the crime scene. Why? Because people complained that LAPD would steal their property. Does LAPD steal it? Well, that's how O.J. wound up going to jail. He was in Vegas and found that LAPD had stolen several of his items of property: Super Bowl rings, autograph pictures, certificates.
Mm-hmm.
So the security squad videoed it. They showed the foot of the bed with no bloody socks. 1:14. About 5 minutes later, this video, by the way, has audio. You could hear, "Excuse me, who are you?" "Detective Furman." "Excuse me, well, Detective Furman. Well, Detective Furman, you have to leave the premises until we finish our work." "Well, sir, we don't care. You have to leave." A few minutes later, "Sir, what are you doing in the bedroom, Detective Furman?" "In the bedroom." And then they pan the camera over. You can see Furman at the foot of this bed that you just got through seeing had no bloody socks. Well, they leave, and later crime scene comes through and videos everything. And now after you've seen no bloody socks at 1:14, 5-10 minutes later, you've seen Furman at the foot of this same bed. Now crime scene shows bloody socks at the foot of the bed. Now who put them there?
Wow.
O.J.'s on an airplane.
Mm.
And the press did not cover the fact that 4 of the chief detectives wound up going to jail in what they call the Rampart scandal for planting false evidence on suspects. They had to let 128 men out of California Penitentiary because of that. And 4 of the chief detectives involved in that were chief detectives in the O.J. case.
Mm.
Did Johnny Cochran raise the race issue? No, but what he did do is he selected people of 45, 50-some years old who had grown up in L.A. and knew how corrupt and wrongdoing LAPD was.
Hey, everybody, this is Brother Ron. I am asking you all to do me a big favor. Think about supporting the We All Be movement. Your donation is tax deductible. The We All Be Group Incorporated is a recognized 501c3. And I'm just asking you all because I want to keep on bringing y'all quality work through the way that I know how to do best. And I'm going to sing my praises and toot my horn. A lot of y'all were not hip to Dick Gregory until Brother Ron brought him on the We All Be platform, until that jingle review we did. Y'all seen another side of Judge Joe Brown, and Judge Joe Brown's message has been amplified. But it was We All Be that brought Judge Joe Brown to y'all back in 2014. And so many others. And we covered so many things. So help us out so we can help you all. Peace.